Alright everyone, welcome back into another prop studio. Give me a touch on the top prop bets in NBA today on both PrizePicks and Underdog. Let's go in and get into it. So guys, we are coming in on a little bit of a heater here over the past week. Very good week. It was nice that we had the sweaters and whatnot. That helped to really have a good day on Christmas Day as well. There was a Chicago Arizona stack that I thought was really good. Thankfully that ended up hitting, and that really worked out well with the sweaters. And then NBA wise on Christmas Day, 4 out of 5 with the flex or with the insurance slip on Underdog hitting. You know, that was a very good day as well. Hopefully we can continue that hot streak. I want to start off with saying though, very good week last week. You know, chances are we might see a little bit of regression. That was a very good week. Okay, we want to be in the middle. We don't want a bad week. We don't want a great week. We want to kind of keep it in the middle. So that's kind of what I'm hoping for this week. But yeah, we get into it for this week. Looking at the first game, we got the Nets versus the Pistons, and it's really starting to become a thing. When will the Pistons win? We look at it, it's a 6.5 point spread right there, 230 for the over and under. Looking at the Pistons now, they could be getting healthier, okay? Like, a lot of people are dogging on the Pistons. We haven't seen their actual, like, starting lineup, if you will, this whole season, okay? Stewart could be back. Well, he has been playing, but he could be active. And then Jalen Duren, who has been out, could be active. And then Killian Hayes as well, you know, a game time decision. If all those players play, they're eventually going to get a W here. Like, they're not that bad. Looking at the Nets, they are going to be good to go, though, however. And so let's go ahead and start out with the Pistons, actually. And we can see the best prop bet that we are currently getting is actually going to be Bogdanovich for under his fantasy score, which is certainly an interesting one. Now, the reason kind of being is simply the game probably being a blowout, you know, just not being close and then him not getting those extra minutes. And I'm very curious, will he be someone that does get that extra run if Jalen Duren is back with Isaiah Stewart being healthy? Again, we have not seen their full roster yet this season. And so all in all, I do think I can get behind that one. It is worth calling out his minutes over the last few games, which is crazy. Like, if you would have told me right when he was back that he was getting 30 plus minutes and his fantasy score was at 28.5 and the data was telling us to bet the under, I'd be like, no, we're not doing that. But all in all, we have kind of seen that he's kind of been hit or miss. You know, it goes with the team, but I could see him kind of losing some minutes and potentially some usage, you know, with Jalen Duren back. So definitely something to monitor. And we are getting two kind of okay ones, really Cade Cunningham and Bogdanovich as well. 3-pointers made. Now, personally, I'm probably not going to be touching those two. We do see Bogdanovich, though, has been shooting a lot of 3 balls. Okay, so for him to make 3 is not too crazy. 7, 7, 9, 6, 5, 9. It is definitely counterintuitive to the fantasy score prop, so you kind of got to decide which one you want to roll with there. But all in all, I don't hate that. And we see Cade Cunningham for over 1.5 threes is really the only other good prop that we are currently getting in this game. I don't mind that. He's coming in off of a poor night shooting. Typically speaking, I like to target those spots where, you know, probably going to have a better night shooting tonight. The issue is that he typically doesn't shoot too many threes, and again, with this team being potentially fully healthy and active, have their active roster, we got, you know, I expect him to be the player that has the most usage on the team night in and night out. But would that be shocking to see a change? It would. Don't get me wrong, but if it dips a little bit, that wouldn't be too shocking. So now let's go and take a peek at Brooklyn. Brooklyn's been an interesting team recently for sure, and that's because the production has really been spread out. We can see the best prop bet that we are currently getting is actually just going to be Cameron Johnson for under 25.5 for a fantasy score, which I do find interesting, given the fact that the average sportsbook line would be favoring the line to be at 26. You know, now they're heavily favoring the under there, and that's why the data is pulling in as a good under bet. And when we take a peek at Cameron Johnson, it does make sense. Not getting 30 minutes, you know, in these games, and if he's not going to be getting 30 minutes, even in a good matchup, I could see why the data would like the under there. I do want to call it Nick Claxton continues to play well. This line is something that I got on earlier, which was his points, rebounds, and assists. Now, all in all, he didn't have a good game against Detroit in terms of getting his over points, rebounds, and assists, and it was at 22.5. And although I do think he probably has a good chance to get that over. But yeah, we can see the lines that we're getting for Brooklyn a little bit tighter than we would really want. So let's go ahead and move on into the next game. All right, so looking at the next game, we got the Magic versus the Wizards. Maybe a game for some potential stacking opportunities. 7.5 point spread, 238 is going to be the over and under. So kind of a decent game. Do need to get some news on Kyle Kuzma and DeLon Wright. You know, if those two sit, that could really open up a lot of usage for both Tyus Jones and also Jordan Poole. Could be a big thing. Obviously, Kyle Kuzma being out would be huge. Looking at the Magic, some big news here as well. It's kind of crazy. I don't know if they've given us the Cole Anthony lines. He's been a good DFS play, but I mentioned with Markelle Fultz out and potentially Jalen Suggs out, we want to be loading up on Cole Anthony. And then also Joe Ingles being out is a big thing as well there. And the reason why that is it's very twofold, okay? He is someone that we can see even in kind of a limited role. Last game where he played 24 minutes, I didn't see why, because he did play well in that game. So all in all, this is going to be a good matchup going against Washington. If he's going to be someone that is gaining us 30 plus minutes with those players being out, that would be huge. All in all, though, I don't think we're going to get those props. Let's go and take a peek. I will note Franz Wagner is going to be someone that we probably could be looking at, and we're going to see, fantasy score wise in this good matchup, it makes sense why the data likes him. He has been someone that we can kind of in a way trust to be a consistent fantasy producer. And so where we're getting his lines at 40.5 for fantasy score, let's go ahead and take a peek at that, because again, this is going to be a very good matchup going against Washington. And to me, this is probably a matchup that we want to be targeting. So we can see he has been getting 30 plus minutes in every single game. We love that. Look at the last 2 games against Washington, absolutely crushed. And so with the data telling us that this should be a good over bet, I am by all means okay with betting the over here. This is seemingly going to be a very solid bet for us. The issue is that's really the only good bet that we are getting for this team right now. So, we can go ahead and move on into Washington, seeing if we're getting any good prop bets there. And so we are getting kind of a full allotment of the props, which is a little bit surprising to me. So that kind of tells us that Vegas is probably expecting him to play in this one. Okay, that's what the little blurb is on DraftKings via RotoWire as well, or sorry, ESPNreports.com. But I'm pretty sure the blurb's out. Yeah, by RotoWire right here. Via RotoWire through ESPN, whatever. So if he's going to be playing minutes, obviously that's going to take the projected usage away from other players. We are seeing like Denny for over 9.5 points is an okay one. At about 53% likely to hit. Tyus Jones under rebounds and assists. We can see Underdog has bumped that down to 9. No big reason as to why. I mean, this only has about a 53.4% chance to hit. Typically, PrizePicks Underdog will start to drop prop bets when they get to like a 54% likelihood to hit. So I don't know, that's a little bit too thin, but all in all, if you're still getting that line and you want a decent EV bet, that could be the one you're rolling with. But yeah, taking a peek at Denny, for him, it's really just a matter of the game staying close and, him getting 30 plus minutes against Orlando. I don't know if we can exactly trust that. Now in 2 games against Orlando, 6 points and then 22 points. So very hit or miss there. We really just can't trust that. So let's go ahead and move on into the next game. And so looking at the next game, we got the Hawks versus the Bulls, and this could be a good spot. Now, I'm actually very surprised about the over and under, given how it seems like every single game that the Hawks have been in, as well as the Pacers, have been like 240 over and under games. But it's 1.5 point spread, 234.5 or so. Looking at the injury report, Zach LaVine obviously still out. Torrey Craig being out is kind of a big thing. Vucevic currently a game time decision. If he sits, that's going to mean Andre Drummond. Looking at the Hawks, they're going to be without DeAndre Hunter, and they also could be without Jalen Johnson. Trae Young currently a game time decision as well. So, we know what to do, guys. If we'll go through it real quick. With Atlanta, we've seen this enough. We kind of already know. Trae Young, if he's out, obviously DeJounte Murray is going to be someone that we're going to want to look at, even against the Bulls. He's going to be the player that gets a massive bump in usage and a massive bump in really consistency. I'm not expecting it, but if his prop lines are at his averages, we'd be betting the over. And so just for what it's worth, DeJounte Murray's usage with Trae Young off the court is 27%, averages 43 fantasy points per 36, averages 24 real life points, 5 rebounds, 7.6 assists, and then this doesn't really change. So definitely gets a bump in usage, definitely becomes a more appealing play. 4% bump in usage, guys, with Trae Young off the court. So if he's off the court, look for DeJounte Murray to have a good game. Let's see if we're getting any prop bets for us. I would imagine it's only Trae Young. No, we're getting some Clint Capella as well. Interesting. But it does make sense, because if Trae Young is out, guys, then it's also going to be someone like Bogdanovich that we'd also be thinking would have a good game as well. He is someone that has stepped up and really soaked up a lot of usage when Trae Young or Murray are off the court in general. And he is someone that really, he just gets more minutes as well. Would get a little bit more shot attempts up as well. He averages 17 shot attempts and 10 3-ball attempts per 36 with Trae Young off the court. He's already getting a lot of minutes already because of a player like DeAndre Hunter being out. So let's just put him into the sample as well, DeAndre Hunter being out, because then, yes, Bogdanovich has a 24% usage rate, averages 39 fantasy points per 36, 19.4 points, 5 rebounds, 6.3 assists. So all in all, he'd be someone we're looking at. And then also, I don't want to sleep on Bey as well, because Bey has been someone that has been sneaky productive. Now, if Jalen Johnson is back, that does eat into his projection for his production a little bit because we won't be locking in, 38 or so minutes. It'd be closer to the 32, 36 minutes. And that can be the difference between hitting a bet or not hitting a bet. His per 36 production is actually extremely surprising. Averages 22 points per 36, 12.6 rebounds, 3.3 assists. And that's with Trae Young and DeAndre Hunter off the court. Now, again, we're probably not the best sample size to be looking at because we don't know if Trae Young is going to play. But all in all, if he does play, we can see we're probably going to get a big bump there. If Trae Young does play and only DeAndre Hunter's out, assuming Jalen Johnson is out as well, Bey only averages 14.2 points, 7.1 rebounds, 1.8 assists. So he still does get a bump, but it's not as big. It's only about a 2-point bump or so, 1.5 point bump, I should say. About a half a rebound or so, about a half of assist as well. But that could really make the difference. So definitely something I am paying attention to. But as it sits right now, we really aren't getting that many good prop bets for the Atlanta Hawks. Like Clint Capella, sure, if Vooch is out and he gets Andre Drummond defense, that would be huge, guys. And so looking at the Bulls, if Vooch is out, that does help out Clint Capella. Now, the issue with Clint Capella has just been minutes. And so we look at it right now, he is questionable. Vucevic is questionable. So again, if he sits, we're going to be looking at Andre Drummond probably getting 25 minutes or so. He's a strong point per minute player, but again, his defense not the best. Clint Capella and Nika Agonku should be able to feast in that matchup. So let's go ahead and take a peek at the Chicago Bulls props that we were getting. I probably will be looking at Kobe White in this one, and we're not getting any prop bets for Kobe White just yet, but I do want to just kind of mention him because Kobe White has been someone that when Zach LaVine, was injured, he was someone that instantly stepped up, was playing a lot of minutes, and just really a consistent fantasy producer. Now, over the last 3 games, it's kind of seen that production fall off slightly, okay? And really, to me, it seems like a blowout against the Spurs. Okay, we'll take that. Another blowout against the Lakers. Okay, so kind of write those two off. And then the last game against Cleveland, also another blowout. He didn't exactly shoot the basketball well in that game, 0 for 8. And all in all, given the matchup that we have against Atlanta, a little bit of a pace up spot for him, I do expect Kobe White to have a good game in this game, assuming that he does get 38 plus minutes. So I'm really hoping that we get some good lines on him. And I'm really hoping that the lines are a little bit lower than they had been over the past week or so, because he had been so productive. But yeah, looking at the prop bets that we are getting for the Bulls, it's kind of thin. Again, like Vucevic, we are getting because he's questionable. If he sits, that doesn't really change the lines too much for DeMar DeRozan, which is why we are also getting his lines. Someone like Patrick Williams would get a slight bump, and again, Andre Drummond would get a big bump. But all in all, I don't see that changing too much. Like Kobe White probably, gets a slight bump in usage, but to me, it kind of feels like a stay away until we get that Vucevic news. And even still, maybe it's still a stay away. So let's go ahead and move on into the next game. We got the Pacers versus the Rockets. 237 is going to be the over and under, 3.5 point spread. So looking at these two teams, kind of healthy. I mean, Bruce Brown is out tonight. That is noteworthy. And then looking at the Rockets, Tari Eason, if he's out, I think we can expect Jabari Smith to still get a lot of minutes and a lot of usage. That is a big mover. So let's start out with Houston, because I know that we are getting some Jabari Smith props. So again, if we get news that Tari Eason is going to be out, Jabari Smith would be someone that we'd be looking at. Maybe you want to do 1.5 threes over. I don't know if it's really going to matter. He's someone like points, rebounds, and assists at 28.5 would be something that I would like as well. And so like just pulling it up here, guys, the game, Jabari Smith has been someone that, again, minutes wise, if he gets 37 to 36 minutes, again, with Tari Eason potentially being out, I would want to be crushing this over, especially in this matchup against the Pacers. So, be on the lookout for this. I'm surprised that we're getting this line because we have seen that this is a big mover. Like Tari Eason, someone that's getting 20 plus minutes, in some cases 30 plus minutes. And so those minutes will shift to Jabari Smith in some capacity. So if we can get 5 more minutes than his season average on there for Jabari Smith, that is huge. And I'd want to be crushing the over points, rebounds, and assists. All in all, though, guys, if we get his fantasy score at like 31 as well, I would want to be betting the over there as well. We're not getting that many fantasy score props in general right now. It's very limited, which kind of sucks. But yeah, he'd be someone I'd be looking at fantasy score wise. Now, let's take a peek at the other 2 prop bets that we are currently getting. So we got Dylan Brooks for over 3 rebounds. We'll take a peek at that, kind of being valued as a push. And then also Sengun, rebounds and assists at 15.5. So yes, Dylan Brooks is someone that has been, getting around 30 minutes or so. We see the rebounds 5, 3, 2, 3, 4. In this matchup against the Pacers where, there's going to be a lot of shot attempts up, I'm actually pretty happy to bet the over 3 rebounds, knowing that has a good chance to, the most likely outcome is that it's going to be a push, but if it's not, the next most likely outcome is that he's going to get over. We can see he averages 3.6 on the season. I don't mind that. Now, the concern with him is that the minutes have been lagging a little bit. Definitely a concern there, but all in all, I don't hate that. And then Sengun as well. We can see he averages 9.2 and 5.2 rebounds and assists, so about 14 there. So he needs to get a little bit more, but again, in the slight pace up spot, I think that's why we are getting the line at 15.5. And I also think that's why Vegas is favoring the over, but at the same time, that's probably why the projection data, which pulls in averages and whatnot, is favoring the under there. So definitely interesting line, but also not too crazy. We'll take a peek at the Pacers because yes, Bruce Brown is going to be out in this game. And interestingly enough, we're not getting any prop bets for the Pacers. So real quick, I'll just go through the production with Bruce Brown off the court. It's actually Buddy Hield that gets the most minutes with him off the court, and we can see heavy minutes for him somewhat recently. Like throughout the season, he's been very hit or miss. He's getting 28, 24, 36 some games. I think it does depend on how well he's shooting the basketball, don't get me wrong there, but all in all, I think with Bruce Brown being out, the chances of him getting more minutes here is definitely greater. And if you look at his per 36 production, I think we could probably project him to get 36 minutes. He averages 17.4 points, 4.1 rebounds, 3.2 assists. Okay, so he averages 15.4 shot attempts and averages 4 3 balls made per 36 and averages 11 3-ball attempts. So all in all, we know that his production really does come from him shooting the 3-ball. And so all in all, with Bruce Brown being out, I do think that just helps his floor of getting 3 balls up. So I'm really curious as to what his 3-ball line would be at or will be at. Benedict Mathurin is something that we could see get more minutes, and his minutes have been very lacking over the past few games. And so tough to say what we would want to do there. And then after that, it's actually Aaron Naismith there. He gets the 3rd most minutes. And so it does seem like he could be a good candidate to get some additional run as well. Once again, with Bruce Brown off the court. But to me, it's really just going to be Buddy Hield that benefits the most. So just be on the lookout for that if we're getting any other prop lines for Buddy Hield. So we'll move on to the next game here. We've got the Jazz versus the Spurs. Another pretty high scoring game. 241.5 or so. 3.5 point spread there. Wemby is a game time decision. Zach Collins a game time decision. Charles Bassey. So literally their 3 centers, their 3 bigs, if you will, are currently questioned. If they sit, that Keldon Johnson having a good game, and that's really the player that we could bank on the most. For the Jazz, 2 of their guards are currently questionable, Keontae George and Horton Tucker. So 2 pretty big high usage rate players being out, but we know Jordan Clarkson is back. So all in all, might be a moot point there. But let's go ahead and take a peek at both teams, seeing if we're getting any prop bets for these 2 squads, because we should be, hopefully. I could see why we wouldn't, though, especially for the Spurs. Yeah, so for the Spurs, it makes sense why we're not getting it. Utah, I guess Utah as well. So very tough to gauge what we should be doing here with us not getting those lines, but let's take a peek at it, guys. So yes, Wemby, questionable game time decision. That was after tweaking his ankle, only played 22 minutes in that game. He landed on somebody's foot, instantly left the game. And so with that, if he is out, Keldon Johnson is just probably going to go off. Now, they got blown out in that game, so why would Wemby come back, right? But at the same time, Keldon Johnson got 16 shot attempts up, had 8 3-ball attempts, had 16 points in just 23 minutes. You give him 10 more minutes, 12 more minutes, and he's definitely getting over his season average of 17. Heck, if Wemby's out, Keldon Johnson has a 25% usage rate with him off the court, averages 20.4 points per 36, 7.2 rebounds, 4 assists. So all the data goes up, and then it is a 5% bump, 5.5% bump in his usage. So all in all, he's just going to get some more shot attempts up. We love that. And so, yeah, I would say his prop line should probably be at 20 for points, and that'd be one I'd want to take the over on. If his points, rebounds, and assists is below 30 with Wemby out, I would also want to bet that over as well. Zach Collins, we got to take a peek at as well, because if he were to sit, and he's not projected to sit, but if he were to sit, Sandro would be someone that would get a lot more minutes. But all in all, it's looking like he's going to play. If he does play, we can project him to get right around 30 minutes if Wemby is out. Zach Collins with Wemby off the court, guys, just goes off. He does. His per 36 production, again, I don't think we can bank on him getting 36 minutes, but it is a good sample to look at. Averages 19.9 points, 9.4 rebounds, 4.5 assists, 1.5 steals, 1.3 blocks, does average 3 turnovers, does average 5 personal fouls per 36, but all in all, has a 23% usage rate, averages 43 fantasy points per 36. So the last game that Wemby sat, I believe, was this game against Milwaukee, and Zach Collins just went off for 41 fantasy points. They did not properly gauge him. His fantasy score was at 27 that day, and I was just like, that is just an easy over bet. I know a lot of people were able to take advantage of that. That's gonna be the same situation again tonight, guys, where we're not getting that line as I'm recording this video, but please be on the lookout for that, because that could be a big mover for us. And then looking at Utah, so yeah, they're gonna be kind of healthy. They got Colin Sexton healthy, they got Jordan Clarkson healthy, so it's tough to say really what we should be doing here. My assumption is that Jordan Clarkson is going to be the number 1 guard, and then you also still have obviously Lauri Markkanen in there being kind of the true number one there. But all in all, to me, Utah, with their current roster and with their current minute rotations and whatnot, to me, that just feels like a stay away. So let's go ahead and move on into the next game here. We got the Pels versus the Grizz, 4.5 point spread, about 229.5. So not the most appealing game. Looking at the Grizzlies, Luke Kennard out, Derrick Rose out, Marcus Smart, game time decision. And so, yeah, what are we going to do guard-wise there? We'll figure that out. Pelicans mostly healthy. Okay, so that's good for them. But all in all, because the Pelicans are healthy, I'm not sure we're going to get any good bets to be on for that game. So, yeah, starting out with the Pelicans, we are actually getting one good EV bet, which is going to be Zion for under 6.5 rebounds. By all means, I'm okay betting that. You guys should be as well. Then Brandon Ingram, we're getting some okay ones. Points and assists over at about 53%. Rebounds over at about 53%. To me, guys, those are just a little bit too thin. I don't feel the need to go on to those. I do find this interesting that the average sportsbook line would have CJ McCollum's points at 18 and would be favoring that as a push, but we're still getting the lines at 17.5 for him for points. So kind of just an interesting one there. But all in all, yeah, it doesn't feel like we need to go in on that. Looking at Memphis now, yeah, Ja Morant is back. And, you know, they have been playing better. Don't get me wrong. But with him being back, I still think there's a little bit of a feel it out phase. Like, we don't know exactly what to expect from Memphis, especially in this matchup, like kind of a difficult matchup. And so we know he's going to get a lot of minutes. We know he's going to get a lot of shot attempts. That we can assume. But if you look at it, guys, this first game against the Pels, I feel like is kind of a bad sample size. He got to the free throw line 12 times and had a terrible day shooting the basketball from 3-ball range. And so it's tough to say that, yeah, his points per game that we're seeing here is something that we can really bank on. And so when we look at his point total at 28.5, I hesitate to get there because, again, like, we can't bank on someone getting 12 free throws each game. If you just put that to half, he does get to 29 points, don't get me wrong, but his first game back, highly motivated to play well. And then against Indy, which was a good spot, didn't dominate. And then against Atlanta, did dominate. And I do think that there's just going to be a little bit of inconsistency there at the start of the season to really trust him. And then with that, we have seen actually Desmond Bane be really good the last two games. But again, it's tough to say what we want to do here. He shot a bunch of 3-balls, but again, that's kind of matchup against the Pacers, against the Hawks. It does make sense. So to me, I personally feel like these are just stayaways right now. I just don't want to go in on them right. And so I'm kind of glad that we aren't getting any good EV bets there right now as well. So yeah, we move on into the next game. We got 3 games left. Timberwolves versus OKC. 2.5 point spread, 228 or so for the over and under. Jalen Williams, game time decision. Josh Giddey, game time decision. If those two sit, that is kind of big. As well as for the Timberwolves, we have Karl Anthony Towns as a game time decision. So definitely some interesting stuff there. Towns sat out the last game for the Timberwolves, and it wasn't shocking that Ant-Man really went off and had a big game. The usage definitely goes up with Towns off the court, as it does the other way. When Anthony Edwards is off the court, Towns goes off. So looking at it right now, guys, he's currently questionable. Definitely something to monitor because, yeah, Ant-Man is going to be someone that would go off. Reed surprisingly only had 19 minutes in that game. He struggled. He was someone I thought would play well. But Kyle Anderson got 29 minutes in that game. They kind of went with him instead. I was a little bit shocked by that. I think it's partially due to the fact that OKC doesn't really have a need for you to run out 2 bigs when it's Reed. And then looking at Rudy Gobert, yeah, I do expect him to have a good game, okay? With Towns off the court, like, this is what we should expect. This was something that I mentioned during the video last week. It's that we're not getting this prop bet for Rudy Gobert just yet, but if his rebounds is set at below 14.5, we're betting it over because that's what he averages per 36, and it was a good matchup. So let's go ahead and take a peek at what his lines are today as well. All right, so interesting. They're kind of being sneaky here. They're not giving us any Rudy Gobert props. So again, guys, just be prepared. If his lines are, you know, at around his average, be comfortable betting the over. He averages basically 14.5 points, 14.5 rebounds per 36 with Towns off the court. So if we get news that Towns is out, be on the lookout for that. And then I do want to mention, because I do think it's important, Ant-Man in this game, yeah, he should be able to crush as well. Again, with Towns off the court, I don't want to say we're expecting him to get 34 points, but we are expecting him to have a good game. So let's see which lines we're getting on him. 28.5 points. I'd probably be fine betting the over there if Towns. And looking at his usage, guys, gets a 4% bump in usage, averages 3.8 more points per 36. Does Ant-Man. So again, should be the over here, especially in a game that's supposed to be close as well. You know, chances are he's going to be on the court for closer to 38 minutes. So that per 36 production that I'm looking at could actually be higher. Now, the one concern is that the last game against OKC, he kind of struggled. He only played 28 minutes in that game. I didn't see why. I don't know if he got in foul trouble or got like banged up in that game. I don't know. I didn't see that, but I think 28.5 points is definitely too low. Again, if Towns is ruled out, kind of if-then statement, but it's a way to potentially get ahead on the books there because they probably will raise up his points if Towns is ruled out. So right now they have him currently projected in there. So definitely something to monitor. And for what it's worth, like take a peek at his points, rebounds, and assists. Again, averages about 29 points per 36, 7 rebounds, and 5.7 assists. So at this number, yeah, he should be able to get this over as well, especially against OKC. We can see he's been already highly consistent regardless. And so all in all, I don't mind that bet. It's a way to get ahead on the books because that number, the lines that we're getting on him will probably rise up again if Towns is out. So slight edge there, I think we're getting right now. And then looking at OKC, guys, OKC, it's so tough to say right now because we don't know the news on Josh Giddey or Jalen Williams. Jalen Williams, played in the last game, 34 minutes in that game, and that was with Josh Giddey out. He was kind of the player that you expected to do well with Josh Giddey off the court, but Josh Giddey, I'm assuming he's going to miss in this one as well, whereas Jalen Williams, we don't know. If those two both sit, I would imagine Isaiah Joe get some more run, but at the same time, we're probably going to see Kenrich Williams get around 20 minutes or so. Aaron Wiggins is someone that could get some run as well, but that seems a little bit random. And so to me, I actually don't mind the idea of going with Chet Holmgren for over. Again, you take Towns off the court, and sure, you're still going against Rudy Gobert, but you take one of those bigs off the court, that just means that Chet is going to be able to kind of, I don't want to say have his way, but in a way, have his way. Like it's a less of a matchup there for him just going against one of the bigs. So at 29 for his points, rebounds, and assists, I'd be fine betting the over there. Again, we just need to get a couple of assists out of him. Last game against the Lakers, he didn't get that. But all in all, I'm not too worried about him getting a foul trouble against Rudy Gobert. And then for what's worth, guys, with Josh Giddey off the court, SGA actually sees a massive bump in his usage, which sounds weird to say. So if we look at the game that he had last game, it really isn't shocking that he had more assists than he averages, and it wasn't shocking that he had more points than he averages as well. That could be something we're looking at. It's weird, but with Josh Giddey off the court, he does get a slight bump in his usage. And so maybe you're looking at points, rebounds, and assists for SGA. So we got 2 more games left. We got the Kings versus the Trailblazers, 8-point spread. 236.5 is going to be the over and under for that game. Got a little bit of the late night game action here. Again, so we got 2 big players for Portland minutes wise, potentially out. Aiden and Sharp. If they're out, I think we're looking at Malcolm Brogdon to have an increase in usage. We're also expecting Simons to probably have a good game as well. It's tough to say what we should do there. I think we're probably going to pass up on this game right now because we just don't know. Looking at the Kings, however, yeah, still a little bit too thin. Yeah, I don't feel the need to go in on either of these. Portland we'll just take a peek at real quick. So for Portland right now, Simons for over 26.5 points, I'd be fine betting the over there, simply because his minutes have been kind of locked in for the most part. And if you get Sharp off the court, that's just increasing some usage to his way. And so yes, this last game against Golden State absolutely got blown out. Still played 34 minutes. So if the game stays close enough for long enough, he's going to get 38 minutes. And so for his line to be at 26.5 points, I'm kind of fine with that. Again, probably a little bit too thin to really go in on. Again, we're always looking for prop bets that have a 54% likelihood, but all in all, that'd be the one from this game that I'd be comfortable with. And now looking at the last game, we got the Charlotte Hornets versus the Clippers, 12.5 point spread or so. About 229.5 is going to be the over and under. Kawhi Leonard currently a game time decision. If he sits, we know what to expect. Paul George is going to get a bump in usage. James Harden will probably be undervalued as compared to what he should be. Looking at the Hornets, in a weird way, they're almost healthy. They've been really banged up the last week or so. Brandon Miller, game time decision. We'll see if he's going to play. Mark Williams, game time decision. We'll see if he plays. But all in all, we know what the main guy in this kind of team is. It's going to be Terry Rozier. And so I actually really don't mind his 3 balls at 2.5. Not a terrible matchup for him. Again, like we want to be chasing prop bets that have a 54% likely to hit. But all in all, that's not a terrible one that we are currently getting with him. Simply because he gets a lot of 3 balls up, 10, 8, 5, and he really hasn't shot it well from 3 ball over the past 3 games. So that tells me that he's due to have some really good day shooting. So all in all, I do think that today he has a pretty good chance to get over 2.5 3 balls made, probably just 3, honestly, but all in all, we're okay with that. And then we go in and take a peek at the Clippers. We currently have Kawhi projected in there, but again, because he's questionable, we're not going to get any other props. It's tough to say what to do here, guys. Paul George, James Harden, they get a bump, obviously, if he's out. All right, so going ahead and get into the bet of the day for today. We are getting some good EV bets right now on Underdog for McCollum and also Zion for over points. For Zion at 22.5 and McCollum for over rebounds and assists at 8.5. I'm fine pairing that up with Jabari Smith, betting on Tari Eason to be out in this game. To me, that'd be a big edge that we'd be gaining. And I'll toss this in there for prize picks, guys. Again, I don't know if it's probably going to be bumped. All right. So I'm just pulling this up. If these are still there, bet them. If they're not, pass up on them. And so then from there, these would be the next best prop bets I think we are currently getting. So Mikal Bridges is one that popped up fantasy score wise for Brooklyn as one of the better EV bets. These are the only two that have a 54% likelihood to hit as it sits right now, as is Zion Williams for under 4.5 assists. Again, that's probably one that gets bumped down to 4. So all in all, like if this does get bumped to 4, don't use it. And then I do think that there's some correlation here for Cameron Johnson. If Cameron Johnson is not getting over his fantasy score, I think that does increase the likelihood for Mikal Bridges to get us over. And then Wagner as well. Like his lines keep getting pushed. Like I said, that the earlier one I expect to get pushed as well. And so that tells me that the data, the bets, sportsbooks are all saying that he's going to have a good game. So that fantasy score one that has about a 53% chance there right now, I could see that going up to 54 as the day progresses. All in all, we know that the fantasy score prop bets probably will not get bumped throughout the day. But that's going to be all for today's video. Make sure to give a like and subscribe to the channel. If you guys want access to the 95sports.com PrizePicks and Underdog cheat sheets, they are available at 95sports.com for just $10 a month. Thank you guys for watching. Let's have a good slate. And as always, let's keep cash.